at a situation and thought, that is impossible. There is no way that can work out. I know I have, and I'm going to show you an object lesson today you can use with your kids to teach them that what looks impossible to the human eye is actually possible with God. Now, I needed this lesson right now because honestly, I have done this video at least 15 times today because I am a perfectionist and I have all of the paper to prove it. And it's not that the object lesson is difficult, it's that I keep tripping over my words or something in the video is not right. And frankly, perfectionism is overrated. The kids don't care if it's perfect. And I bet you guys probably don't even care if this video is perfect. So forget perfectionism. It's pointless. Let it go. All right, you're ready. So what you're going to need to do this lesson is a piece of paper and a pair of scissors. You're going to have to change your story a little bit because your circumstance, how you're finding out about this, is different than how I did it. When I was 6 years old, I was in first grade, and my first grade teacher got up and told us that if you know what you're doing, you can step through a piece of paper. Now, I was a really little 6-year-old, but I came to the conclusion that this was impossible when time after time I tried and I tried and I tried, and I could not do it. I thought the key was that if you just tear the paper really close to the edge, then maybe, just maybe, you could fit your body through it. I thought maybe the key is to stick your head in first, one arm at a time, your legs in. Nothing worked. Turned out, to be able to do this, you need someone who has the master plan, which in this case was my first grade teacher, and you need the right tools, which is a pair of scissors. You can do this without scissors, but I like to throw in needing the right tools, which we'll get to in the application part. So take your piece of paper. If you ripped it like I did on the first one, make sure you have a second piece of paper to do this. Fold your paper long ways, like a hot dog bun, or whatever term you use in your classroom. Doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, perfectionism, completely overrated, but the closer you get to a good fold, the easier this is going to be. Starting on the side with the crease, you're going to go ahead and cut some lines up the paper. Do not cut all the way to the top. What's going to happen is after you make all these cuts I'm going to show you today, you're going to have a big circle of paper that you can step through. So keep making cuts all the way up until you're all the way across the page. I will give you a little tip here that the closer you make the cuts, the bigger the circle of paper is. So if you have a larger build, you're going to want to make sure the strips are closer together. It also, even if you don't have a larger build, makes it easier to step through without ripping it. I just did this last week with a group of kids, got all the way to the end. It was all perfect. Again, I'm a perfectionist. And then when I went to step through it, it got caught on my shoe, and I ripped it. Of course, right? The kids got the point, but being a perfectionist, I was kind of like bummed, whatever. Okay, so after you make all the cuts on the fold, you should have a little hula skirt looking thing here. Flip the paper around and make the same cuts on the side where the paper opens. Except this time, you're not going to cut a line through that end piece there. You're going to start with the second one in, making sure, again, you don't go all the way to the top. You need the papers to stay connected. While you're making these cuts, you can be quiet and let the kids watch, or you can use the time to talk to the kids about impossible situations in their life. Now, I am guilty of this myself, but have you ever heard someone say, oh, to be a kid again? Remember when you thought you had such big problems and compared to being an adult, they're nothing? Quit. I get that kids don't have jobs and they're not responsible for bills and all this other stuff, but remember being a kid and your problems were legit problems to you. And frankly, if you really think about it, a lot of kids have the same problems we face today, just from a more helpless standpoint. Maybe their parents are getting a divorce. They have absolutely no control over it. Maybe they heard mom and dad talking about financial problems and they're worried that they're not going to be able to eat or not be able to pay the bills. I know we think kids don't think about those things, but honestly, I remember being a kid and I remember thinking about those problems. Maybe kids are facing bullies. Maybe they're struggling with their schoolwork and thinking there's no way I'm ever going to understand this. Anyone remember algebra class? That was an impossible situation, or so I thought. Somehow I made it through. And I bet most of you guys all felt like there were some impossibles during that time too. So let us be careful to not diminish problems. Kids have, they need help and encouragement to make it through their problems just as much as we do. Hopefully this object lesson will help them through that. So after you make all those cuts, you should just have this long strip of paper Now the last step is you're going to cut the creases. Now it's very imperative that you do not cut the crease on the end pieces. If you cut the crease on the end pieces, this will not work out. You will not have a circle. Not even an issue of perfectionism, it just won't work. So starting on the second one in, you're going to go ahead and take your scissors and cut all of the creases out. Now I am using this object lesson with the story of Ezekiel when God took him up to the hillside and had him look over into the valley and looked at all of the dried out bones there that once belonged to an army of men. And God asked him, Ezekiel, can these bones live? And Ezekiel, knowing God can do anything, but also having a little bit of human doubt, said, Lord, only you know. We know the story was really a metaphor about Ezekiel feeling down because he was the prophet, and Israel was not living for the one true God at the time. They were really turning towards false idols, and Ezekiel was getting discouraged, wondering if Israel would ever live for God again. And God wanted to encourage Ezekiel by showing him, look, if I can do this impossible, how much more can I handle your impossible? Kids sometimes need to hear this today. And just like, remember I told you the key to this paper trick is you need someone with a master plan and you need the right tools. That's what we need to fit through our problems, to work through our problems today. God has the master plan for our lives, and he gives us the tools we need. We have the word of God. We have our pastor, teachers, parents, mentors, a lot of tools to help us through these situations. We also need to be aware that God helping us through a situation doesn't mean it's always going to work out exactly like we think it should. Remember the story of Lazarus dying? And Mary was like, Lord, if only you would come, my brother wouldn't have died. Well, things didn't work out how she wanted, because what she wanted was for Jesus to come early, heal her brother while he was still alive and sick, and everything would be great. Unfortunately, he died, and Mary and Martha were really upset. But Jesus had the bigger plan. He knew the master plan for Lazarus' life and Mary's life and Martha's life, and he knew that doing it his way would end up bringing glory to God. So we also want to make sure kids know that, yes, God can help you through your problems, but it doesn't always mean your parents are not going to get a divorce. It doesn't always mean that your parents may not have to sell the house and you guys move into an apartment. It may not mean the bully's just going to disappear. Maybe that bully is to pick on you all year, but you never know. That bully can see how you react towards them and eventually turn to God himself. So what you're going to have once you're done cutting all those creases is you should be able to pull the paper apart. You want to be really careful here because these little cuts like to snag on each other and you'll rip it, kind of like it snagged on my foot when I did it last week, and cut it. But if you're super careful when you open it, you have this big circle of paper that now you can fit through. And the kids will all see that what they thought was impossible is actually possible. I've included this object lesson, again, with my story on Ezekiel. It's in my new 4-week series called Fear Not, which is set for release on March 24th, 2017. Not only will you see the instructions for this and the lesson about Ezekiel, but you also get 3 other lessons that talk about kind of impossible, scary situations that people in the Bible faced and how it applies to kids and how they can put their faith in God instead of living in fear. Hope you enjoyed this object lesson. If you have any questions or want to share the story of how this turned out in your class, feel free to comment below.